You're listening to Side Hustle Pro, the podcast that teaches you to build and grow your side hustle from passion project to profitable business. And I'm your host, Nicaila Matthews-Okome. So let's get started. Hey friends, hey, welcome back to the show. I have such a special, unique episode for you guys today. So today in the guest chair, I have Brandice Daniel. Brandice is a trailblazing entrepreneur and thought leader reshaping the fashion industry through her commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. As the founder and CEO of Harlem's Fashion Row, HFR, Brandice has built a globally recognized platform that uplifts designers of color, forging impactful partnerships with brands like LVMH, Nike, Gap, and Hugo Boss. Notably, she spearheaded the creation of the Nike x HFR LeBron 16 sneakers, a collaboration that sold out in minutes and set a new benchmark for cultural relevance in fashion. In 2020, Brandice expanded her mission by founding Icon 360, a nonprofit that has raised over $2 million, including a historic donation from Vogue and the CFDA to fund and support designers of color. Icon 360 also partners with HBCU fashion departments, providing scholarships, mentorship programs, and opportunities to bridge the gap between education and the fashion industry. In today's episode, I am peeling back the curtain on the process of approaching and planning sponsorships for the Side Hustle Pro empire in 2025 and beyond. I'm giving you guys a transparent look on my journey with sponsorships so far and how I'm thinking about and approaching it now. And who better to get a coaching session from than the expert herself, Brandice. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let's get right into it. All right, Brandice, welcome back to the guest chair. It's so good to have you.
I am so excited to be back on Side Hustle Pro, one of the best podcasts out there.
Hey, thank you. I went back to listen to your very first episode in 2018, and I can't believe that was 7 years ago. Every time I start doing the math, I could never get it right going back in time because I just can't believe that many years have passed. But
here we are. Crazy, right?
Right. And at that time, was it the 10th year of Harlem's Fashion Row then?
Yes. It was actually our 11th year. We had just celebrated our 10th year.
Mm-hmm. You just celebrated your 10th year. So tell us a little bit more now. What all does the Harlem's Fashion Row brand encompass?
So since then, we have officially declared that we are an agency. And so what we do is we actually connect designers of color to brands and retailers. And we do that in 4 different ways: through providing brand strategy to different brands who are looking to connect with that audience, through events like specialized curated events, through brand collaborations, like we have one right now in Nordstrom that's on sale, go and shop it, and then through pipeline programs, through our HBCU work that we do and helping to get diverse candidates into corporate offices.
That is amazing. I didn't know you did all that. Oh my God, congrats. So you're telling me that with all of your expertise now, you are actually connecting designers with brands to get them in store.
Yeah, absolutely. We do it through collaborations. That's the main way that we do it. Mm-hmm. But it's also making a lot of introductions between the designers and the brands for different opportunities that may not have anything to do with HFR.
So I want to explore a few different angles here today in our conversation. Number one, you started out a business and you had one vision in mind, and then it has expanded into all these different areas. So I want to talk about the experience of expansion and how you've gone about that. For you, when you started out, what did you see the business as being? And then how did you go about expanding?
That's such a great question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked me that before. I'll say first, I didn't even know I was starting a business. I had no idea that Harlem's Fashion Row was a business at all. I saw a problem. I saw the lack of designers of color in the market. That was a problem that I wanted to solve. And I thought, you know what, maybe I can solve this through doing a fashion show where I would show these designers every single year to an audience that could help them. That was like literally it. Yeah. And then I think for me, I became enthralled in this problem and was like, I want to quit my job because I want to do this thing like full time. But it's like, well, what is this thing? What is this thing? Is it a business? Is it a nonprofit?
What is this thing? That's a familiar question.
I was working with a business coach at the time, and he said, Brandice, we have enough nonprofits in the world. What we need more of is Black people need to have profitable businesses that can actually hire and provide jobs to people.
Yes.
That's what we really need.
Yes.
And he really talked me out of making HFR a nonprofit and making it a business. And I think for me, it was a long time of trying to figure out, well, how do I make this a business when no one really wants what I'm doing? So,
well, why did you feel that way?
Because at the time, no one was talking about Black designers in fashion. It wasn't a topic that either designers wanted to talk about, quite frankly, and retailers just didn't have their eye on that audience at all. And so it was a tough business because if you're having a business, you're providing a solution to someone who will pay you. Right. Mm-hmm. And so we weren't at the moment, we really weren't a solution to anyone that would pay us. So we were doing events. We were bringing on sponsors for the events. They were doing pretty good. I think, it was okay. I do think that what was life-changing for us was Nike doing the collaboration with Nike and LeBron James. And so that really expanded what we were really quickly. And at that point, you're talking about 10 years. So I'm like, okay, Brandice, what is this exactly? And how do you address the market? How do you provide? I know the money is going to come from the brands, right? Because most creatives don't really have the money to sustain in fashion, a business. So I was just like, it's going to come from the brand. So what can I do to fulfill my purpose, which is providing a platform to the designers, but also provide a solution to these brands. And so the collaboration was a big one. We got 2 collaborations right after that. I think it set the precedence of like, oh, they can do a collaboration. And then, of course, 2020 happened. And at that point, that's really when I think our business became solidified because brands then woke up and was like, wait a minute, like we've not been talking to this audience. And so we were able to meet as a team and go, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to offer? But we had tried and tested so many things. And so I was able to then say, okay, here are the things I know that work.
Yes. So prior to the collaboration with LeBron, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that was, but prior to that, was your sole revenue stream for the most part when you put on the show or when you put on events and then the brand sponsorships for those events?
Yes, it was event sponsorship.
And now, what is a collaboration in your world? Like, what do you mean by that? What was the LeBron James collaboration? What was that?
So for us, collaborations are actually product collaborations. So they are when a brand will come to us and they'll say, hey, we've got this idea. We would love to talk to HFR about it. Then we have the conversation. We hear their idea and we go, okay, let us come back to you with who we think would be great for this. So we'll come back to them with designers who we really feel like can tell the story that the brand is wanting to tell. And then our designers will then meet with their designers, but the designers that we bring to the table really drive the process in the design, while their designers are making sure that they know their customer best, right? So they're making sure that everything is adhered to, and it's really a collaborative process, quite frankly. And I love it so much because it's a great way for designers to be compensated without having to do any of the production of the actual product, because the brand then produces all of the product.
So it was Nike. And did one of your designers then design a specific shoe? Is that how it worked?
So we brought on Fee Noel, which many of your listeners know. So we brought on Fee Noel, Kimberly Golson, and Andra Celeste New York. And those 3 designers worked together with the Nike team to design a sneaker. And the sneaker that they designed, we actually released it. We did a secret release at our Fashion Show and Style Awards in 2018, where we honored LeBron James. And at the end of the event is when we revealed the sneaker. And so at the end of the event, people walked out and it was like a gallery where they could see the sneaker. And it was released maybe a week after that. And that was a sneaker that sold out in less than 5 minutes.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And so from there, what other collaborations did that spawn?
After that, we did a collaboration with the kids wear brand, Janie and Jack. We worked with Banana Republic. We did a collaboration with them and Charles Harbison. Then we did a collaboration with Jimmy Choo and Timberland with a designer, Chanel Campbell. Then we worked on a collaboration with Amazon for the drop. Then we did another collaboration just recently with Nordstrom. And maybe by the time this comes out, there'll be another collaboration that we're getting ready to drop on February 13th. So, and I may have even missed a collab in there.
You said 2020 was a year when you kind of cemented, all right, this is what works. This is what the business is going to encompass. Was that kind of like a final, and those are the areas that you've been focused on since then, or have you expanded any more?
So one thing that happened that was really interesting to me during that time was somebody said to me, Brandice, you should look at HFR in phases and go, what are like, for example, 6 phases of your business? What phases have you already hit and where are you going? That was some of the best advice. So I then did a what I call a dream session with myself. And I really just dreamt up like, what are all the ideas I've had for HFR and where are we going to go? And like, where have we been? So if I had to like categorize HFR and say in 6 phases, like this is what we've done. These are the things that we've hit and this is where we're going. So I think at that point, we were in the phase of really solidifying relationships with our retailers. And that was a very important phase. We've now crossed that phase, but that was a very important phase for us. And so we're still there, right? So we're not leaving behind what we've done, but where we're headed to is really, it's all about consumers. So you're going to see us in markets like DC and Atlanta and Houston. And that's all happening actually this year, 2025. And then next year, you'll see us in more cities. So that our next phase is all about how do we serve consumers who want to shop designers of color.
How do you do this? Let's get into the how. Because your sweet spot, your expertise is really small business, big partnerships. A lot of times as a small business, you might think, I can't pitch XYZ brand yet. I can't go after that sponsorship yet. Is that true? How do you view it?
That is so not true. That is so not true. But I used to think that though, Michaela, I used to think that when I thought about doing a collaboration, I'm gonna be real honest. I wanted a collaboration, but do you know what I had in my mind for a collaboration?
What?
A cell phone case with Samsung or something. That was what I had in my mind.
So small, so limited.
I mean, so small, so limited. Never in a million years would I have thought that our first collaboration would be with Nike and LeBron James. Like, never in a million years. But what I have learned from that is big brands absolutely want to partner with small brands. Nike and LeBron they literally could collaborate with anyone. Yeah. We didn't have a lot of followers. We might have had 40,000 followers at the time. It wasn't like we had, 1 million followers. So of course they'll come up. That was not the story. And a lot of times what small businesses overlook is that you have an audience who've been rocking with you for a long time, right? So you've got like this amazing community who rides for you. A big brand, they want to connect with that. And I'm even thinking about you, Nikayla, and for example, like, right?
About me, right?
But you've got an audience that's been rocking with you for a long time. Like, not only your audience, but all of your guests that you have coming on. Like, these are all people that are resources for you. Second thing is you've got an authentic story. And if you're a big brand and you're doing 20 launches a year, right? How many stories are you going to tell about yourself?
I saw a wonderful article yesterday that was like, guess what? Nobody cares about your brand. And it was this Venn diagram. It was like the people who care about your brand. And it was like everybody who works for the brand. And then it was like everybody else not caring whatsoever. But they care about stories. They care about human elements.
Exactly. And that's why you can't buy authenticity. You can't buy it. You can't manufacture it. You can't conjure it up.
No.
So when you're a small business, you've got like this amazing, authentic story. And if you've stuck with it, say, for as long as you have,
Yeah.
you've got this amazing story of grit and tenacity and perseverance. And all of that is real, right? Because it's what it has taken you to get to where you are. Brands want to connect with that. They want to be able to basically sell an item through
Right.
your story.
Right.
And if you realize like your story is absolutely powerful, and that's why they want to connect with you, right? It's like they want to get the community, because at the end of the day, the community are customers for them. They want the authenticity. They want to be able to tell your story, and it allows them to do something unique and interesting.
Exactly. And I needed that reminder, because it's like when you are a small business, infopreneur, solopreneur, whatever you are, you have to do this year after year. Like you might
Yeah.
land a big contract one year. You got to keep doing that.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
I want to know the how. So this year, 2025, how can people in like the small, medium business range, how can they approach sponsorship this year?
It is all about relationships.
Mhm.
And I think you have to think about this in terms of, how do I build new great relationships? That
Yes.
is more important than anything. Like, for example, I can guarantee you that there are probably 10 listeners that listen to your podcast that work for brands. They already have a relationship with you. You
Yes.
don't have a relationship with them,
You know
baby.
that. Hit me up.
But
Side Hustle Pro.
exactly. If you guys are here and you're listening to Side Hustle Pro, like reach out
Right.
to her and say, hey, let's have a conversation to see
Yeah.
how we can partner. But it is all about relationships, building relationships. People are more interested in like meeting someone who is genuinely interested in them, like over the partnership, more than you know. The
Yes.
second thing is people have to know who you are and what you're doing. And so one of the things that we've done since 2007, I've always had a publicist. So everything that we do that's interesting, and not even everything, I wish we could announce more. We're always announcing it. We're always making a big deal out of it so that
Right.
people are constantly aware, oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. Even if
Yes.
it's like just sending out something on LinkedIn, people need to know
That is
what.
so true, because, sometimes people pride themselves on not having a publicist, and that is an avenue when you have extra time to do that yourself. But you don't realize all the different wins you have throughout the week that you could compile up into a press release. And if you had a publicist or you were working with a press team, they would be looking for those opportunities for you. So you don't miss out on a moment to let people know and let brands know.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. So that's the first thing I would say. Like, people need to know you exist.
Yes,
That's
yes.
important. Building the relationship. But then what you want to do is you want to look and say, let's, for example, Nikayla, like, let's think about your audience. Like, who's
Yeah.
your audience, if you had to say?
So my audience is Black women between the ages of like late 20s to mid 40s. I always talk about my person, Janelle. Like, she lives in New York. She went to NYU. She works for Amex, and she's starting her skincare line on the side. So she's listening to the show, trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to grow this? And when's a good time to leave? Because she likes nice things like I do. Like, she shops at Target. She's a Sephora like, she's through and through a beauty girl.
I love that. Okay. So that's your girl, which, by the way,
Mhm.
lots of brands want to talk to that girl.
Yes.
So then you want to think, who wants to talk to her? Like,
Yes.
what brands want to talk to your customers that also their values align with yours?
Mhm.
And a lot of times it's hard for us to do this, right? Because we're like in our own head. So I always say, like, grab some friends and go, like, okay, y'all, this is my audience. Who do you think want to talk to my audience? So let's go with the beauty category. What people in the beauty category wants to talk to your audience? Just name like 3 brands, maybe.
So big brands are like specific.
It can be Sephora.
So Sephora, Target, Ulta. Then we want to talk about health and wellness as well. And let's look into financial wealth and, generational wealth, your Amexes, your Bank of America. So I did a big partnership with them last year, and start talking about investing companies as well, the Acorns of the world and things like that. So it's a mixture of lifestyle. It's holistic. It's lifestyle, beauty, wellness, and also financial.
So if I was working with you, I say, Nikayla, you're absolutely right on. I would say, let's make a list of 100 brands who you think want to work with Side Hustle Pro.
Yes.
And we will make that list of the 100 brands who we think, here's everyone who would want to work with Side Hustle Pro. Okay, perfect. Now let's find the contact at the brand.
Yes.
Let's find the marketing manager. If you want to look for diversity and inclusion, who is a person at the brand that we want to reach out to? And then the second question, and probably the most important question, is, do we know anyone who already works there?
Yes.
That can make that connection for us. So we would look through all of those brands. And then I'm assuming you've got like a sponsorship deck or partnership deck, and you can tell the story of how Bank of America has partnered with you and all these other partners. That's what we're going to send out to the brand. And the goal at that point is to get a call.
I love this because I have not done this in so long. Let me tell y'all transparently, since we're having this coaching session, right? Welcome into my own coaching session. When I started Side Hustle Pro, I was doing this myself. I was on the ground, reaching out, pitching sponsors, landed all of the sponsorships myself to like grow my show, quit my job. And then I reached a point where I thought I needed to outsource it, where I thought, if I have someone else doing this, I'm going to get all these great deals and blah, blah, blah. And what I learned is no one goes as hard for your brand and show as you do.
Mm-mm. You're absolutely right.
And now I feel a little out of practice. I'm out of my reps. So I'm so glad that we're doing this because I'm going to get back in those reps. I'm going to make that list of 100 people. And when you're looking for brand contacts, like I admit, I do have a lot of contacts that I need to tap into. But then also when you're doing it cold, like back in the day, I would Google, but now they have that site. Do you ever use, what's it called? Zoom, Rocket Info? What's it called?
Yeah, you can use any of, they have so many sites right now, like Rocket Zoom,
emails, Rocket Zoom or something.
Hunter.io. They have several websites now where you can go on and you can get the persons, and you can use LinkedIn to figure out who are like a few people I should probably email.
Too. Yep.
And then from that, you can get the email. They are not hard to get. But if you can use a relationship, it's always so much better to have someone at L'Oreal introduce you to this person. Always so much better. But I went through that period too, Nikayla, where I was like, you know what?
Let me get some salespeople.
Let me get some help, right? And I have also learned that, and now like I'm trying to get to the place where most of my week is spent having lunches and breakfast with people. Because I had a coach one time and he said to me, Brandice, you shouldn't be in the day-to-day anymore. What you should be doing is out having lunches and breakfasts. I was like, me having lunches and breakfasts. What are you talking about? Like, what?
Yeah.
And Nikayla, when I tell you, we have so much business that comes from me just sitting down having conversations. I'm not pitching them. I may be telling them like what we have coming on, but I am literally just connecting with them. And just through connecting with them in person, having a moment, that person thinks we're on the top of their mind now. So when something comes up, they're like, hey, you know what? We have da-da-da-da. It is honestly, I think the most important thing that you can do as CEO and founder of your business. And I will tell you, this is very new. This is 2025 advice that I would not have had 2 years ago.
Really? I would have expected, because I always, but that's one thing about the gram. Like you see things, it looks like people are just out every day, brunching and lunching and rubbing elbows.
Girl, no.
That's what I thought you did.
Nikayla, my default was no.
Yeah.
Like my assistant knew, like, find 5 ways to say no to everything, because I'm a mom. I have a 9-year-old. Yeah. I'm a wife. I have to keep her home. I have a part-time nanny. I don't have a full-time nanny. That's not the right situation for me.
Yep.
And it's hard. So that's why I do breakfasts and lunches. I rarely do dinners because I can do those while she's at school.
Same here. And I feel this advice in my soul because the reason Brandice and I are even having this conversation, right, is because we just saw each other was that November? No, beginning of December, when Trisha Lee, who was on this podcast, invited me to moderate a panel. And Brandice was there. So many other women who have interviewed or who have listened have been there. And I feel like that was, if not the first time, like the second time we've seen each other in person. And that's such a shame. Like we both live in New York. That's such a shame. I told myself you have to do better because instinctively, like we just had an instant connection. We only had like 5 minutes to catch up and we talked about so much. We talked about so much. I've got to talk to you, right? And it's like immediately I felt this sense of relief again, like I'm not in this alone. There are other working moms, entrepreneur women building their businesses brick by brick who are coming upon the same challenges and might be ahead of me in some ways that I can learn from. And it was just that reminder, if you can, get out there, talk to someone, no matter what city you're in. You might think, oh, I'm not in New York, Michaela, but no, meet with someone. It makes such a difference.
And can I tell you that we do such a terrible job as entrepreneurs, being in our own bubbles and in our own heads and not doing this in community. Right. One thing that I am still learning, but that has been very helpful to me over the last few years is that I don't do entrepreneurship alone. I do it in community with probably 3 other entrepreneurs that I can call on and be like, girl, I just feel like I'm really losing in this area. Like, what do I need to do? Like, what am I missing? Or I don't think this person is a good fit for my team anymore. Like, but I love them. Like, what do I do? You know, like having real conversations with other women who have been through it and that maybe are a few steps ahead of me is so helpful.
It's so helpful. So I'm so glad we're doing this. This episode is sponsored by Skillshare. The online learning community is offering Side Hustle Pro listeners a free trial of premium membership. Now, many of you already know that one of my biggest side hustle hacks is Skillshare. I've been using Skillshare for years now, and that's because it's the truth. I love it so much, I've created a free short course to give you the play-by-play on how to launch your own high-quality video podcast. It's called The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Podcasting, and if you've ever wondered how I get the clear, crisp video you see on the Side Hustle Pro podcast without going into a fancy studio, this is the course for you. The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Podcasting is a course where I'm sharing my favorite budget-friendly equipment picks, my step-by-step training on recording and editing a podcast, and how to create engaging episodes and eye-catching social media clips. The best part, the course is free if you go to sidehustlepro.co/Skillshare. So are you ready to get started? Visit sidehustlepro.co/Skillshare to enroll. Again, Side Hustle Pro listeners, you'll get 1 month free of premium membership over at sidehustlepro.co/Skillshare. Again, that's 1 month free over at sidehustlepro.co/Skillshare. And now, let's just dive back in to the coaching again. Now we have these emails. We're hopefully able to connect with people in person or people we know, but any tips on building a cold relationship into a warm one? Or if you don't have a contact somewhere, how do you finesse that?
Yes. So a couple things. I believe in doing things that other people just won't do. And so I always say, like, you'd be surprised at how far like a $15 Starbucks card will get you. Don't be afraid to send that person an email, but then follow up. If they don't follow up with you, follow up and say, hey, coffee on me today. I hope to speak with you soon. And then if you need to do it the next month, do the same thing the next month, right? Like if you've got their email, you can easily say, you don't need their address to send a Starbucks card. Things like that are always going to be helpful. Or, hey, I just saw you spoke at this event. Like, it looked amazing. You looked incredible. Like, I have gotten so many meetings just by saying, looking at people's social and saying to them, hey, I just saw you got an award for XYZ. Congratulations. Like, that's such an amazing feat. And those things matter. Most people send a blanket email. They're asking for a meeting, but it has no thoughtfulness to it. I think if you can put something in there, even when I get cold emails, like, I'm just like, these people don't know anything about me. They don't know anything about my company. Like, this whole thing is so, right. It's so cold and it's so vague and like, no. But if I have someone who says, hey, I read an article in da-da-da, and I saw that you said XYZ, and that really spoke to me. You have 15 minutes. I'm most likely going to find 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So I think the way that you do it is you're authentic and you actually take a few moments to know who you're reaching out to, and you do the thing that nobody is going to do. And that Starbucks card, it works.
Yes, I love those tips. Those are things that I am not doing, that I'm going to start doing, because you're so right. I could do that. It doesn't take much. It doesn't cost much. And I know you guys listening are going to do the same, because it does make a difference. Those kind of things do stand out to me. I just think about the cold emails, and nowadays people fake like they were like, oh, I saw your recent episode. And then it's like a template. Yes. They just fill in the blank. I'm like, and what happened? And what else? You listened to the episode and what? It was just like they're trying to get me, but they didn't get me. But if you really are intentionally thoughtful, it does make a difference.
It makes a big difference. And like, Nicaila, with you, there's so many women who have a side hustle, right? Yeah. So many. And I think about, like, I can see your podcast on so many stages at all these conferences. Yes. Because even if like there's no fee associated with that, a lot of these conferences have the women who works at the brands. Yes. So I can see Side Hustle Pro. I can think of like 5 conferences right now that it feels like, oh man, you should be there doing a live podcast on stage with someone so that people become familiar.
Yeah, sometimes I see those things. I'm like, wait, what? Why nobody call me? And I'm like, Nicaila, because they don't know you exist. You gotta let them know.
Yes.
I'm like, wait a second. I should have been hosting that.
Absolutely. You should have. Yes. You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And the way that we do our podcast advertising is we want a brand to come sponsor the season. So you can't sponsor an episode because girl, that episode to episode life, it's just like event to event life.
Yeah.
I used to sell sponsorships for events. Okay, now we got the designer retreat coming up. Okay, who's going to sponsor this? Then we would just go all in on the designer retreat. Then I go, okay, now we got the fashion show style awards. We need to find a sponsor for that. That drove me crazy. If you know you've got 4 events throughout the year, pitch all 4 events to a brand at the same time.
Yes. You're so right. I have been living the episode to episode, even batch episodes. Like I would do 4 and 8. I'm over it. That era of Side Hustle Pro is over. It's over. Yeah. I am looking at the holistic brand and the holistic packaging. You know, you're not just sponsoring one-offs. So thank you for that as well. You're right. That's what I'm going to start doing. And I only have so much time, right? I have 2 small kids. Everyone knows this is a really no joke era of life. So how do I, other than what I do on social, like, how do I put myself out there more and raise that visibility while I'm also pitching these brands and having these conversations, kind of speed up the life cycle of landing the check a little bit?
Yeah. For you, I feel like, Nicaila, all your contacts are through people you know or people who listen to the podcast.
Yes. I hear you loud and clear. Yes.
You, like, when I tell you got everything.
Yeah.
You got it all, girl. You got it all. I wish we had your audience. We don't have your audience yet.
Yeah.
But I would say, start out with okay, here's the 10 brands I'm going to focus on this week. That's it. Or here are the 5 brands I'm going to focus on this week. Now, let me look through my LinkedIn to see who knows someone at that brand.
Yeah.
You can just start there. You can even do 1 brand a week if it's
maybe I'll start with 1 just for this week, just to you kind of have to tip your toe in at first when it seems
Yeah.
overwhelming. Cause I'm like, oh man, sometimes I hear that when people tell me, oh, you built up so much. I almost feel like, man, I'm dropping the ball. And then I get focused
No,
on
you're not.
all the money I've missed out on. And I'm like, girl,
Don't.
just refocus, reframe. All right. So yeah, I do want to focus on 1 to 2 and have those conversations and really have those meaningful interactions and then go from there. Because now that I'm looking at it as not a one-off kind of thing, I don't need 30 brands, right? I
You don't.
need a small but mighty group.
Absolutely. And you can get them sponsored your whole year's worth of podcasts.
Yes.
And what I would do if I were you, I would like say Q1 is going to focus on these types of side hustle pro
Yeah.
women. Q2, Q3, Q4, right? Somebody in the wellness space, in the beauty space, in the tech space. So then that helps
That's
too
true.
with then targeting the brand partners. So if you did it in quarters and you say, this is going to be, second quarter is going to be all about beauty side hustlers, then I'm going to go to the Sephoras and the Ultas and the Targets and those people.
This is why they pay you the big bucks. This is why I seek you out to learn from you. Like, not only in this episode, you guys, but Brandice has a course, right? Like, if you want to have this kind of coaching yourself, tell people about your course and how you're able to help other business owners with sponsorship.
Yeah, I would say start with a book. I have a book. It's free. So that's like no barrier to entry. Go
Yes.
get my book. You just have to pay shipping and handling. You can go to Small Business Big Partnerships book.com and start with a book. Read the book. Get it, in that information. We're going to start doing book clubs. So we're going to have book clubs about every other week where we're going to do Zoom meetups where we're actually talking through like one chapter of the book or like a few pages in the book. So join the book club. And then if you're like, I need more, then absolutely. I have a course available for you too. But the reason I love teaching this so much is because when I first started, I had nobody to show me the ropes.
Yeah.
Nobody showed me the ropes. No one explained this to me. No one was willing to you're talking about gatekeeping. This is information that people gatekeep for real.
For real.
Still to this day, this information is like under lock and key.
And it's a little intimidating too, because once let's say I have these relationships now, right? And I want to pitch. If you haven't done this before, it can feel so daunting when a brand says, tell us your rate or send us a proposal. And you're like, okay, ChatGPT, create a proposal.
It is.
Where do you begin?
It is. In our course, we do have a whole deck template. I worked with my graphic artist on it. And I was like, if I was going to create a deck that anyone can use, it's not a Canva deck. It's literally what I thought it could work for any brand. It's really clean, it's chic. And so she created that. But, you want to say who you are, what you're wanting them to sponsor, why they should sponsor it, which is about your audience and all the great work and the press and the great numbers and all those things. And then you want to say, this is what you're going to get for sponsoring this, right? This is what you're going to get. And then this is the investment. It's an investment for them.
Yeah.
But it's a good investment.
That's the key. It's a good investment. Like, the word investment isn't bad. It's a good investment.
It's a good investment. And brands are paying trust me, at this point, what I know is that brands pay a lot of money for things that don't even work. So don't be afraid to charge your real fees.
Yes. Ask, talk to people. If you feel like you don't know where to begin, there are other people who have been through this before you who can help you.
Absolutely.
I like that you said brands are paying for things that don't even work. Speaking of the deck and the numbers and all the things that we're going to put in there. So vanity metrics do matter to an extent. They're helpful to an extent. They paint a fuller picture of the audience. However, don't let that stop you from starting. Don't let that stop you from starting where you are. So for people who might have a smaller social media footprint or a smaller email list size and all those things, what would you tell them?
It's okay. Everyone has to start somewhere, and you'll be surprised. When Target was our first event sponsor, and we probably had less than 10,000 followers. We were not a big brand, but we had built a great community. So make sure whatever business you have, you need an amazing community around that business, because people may not buy into your metrics, but they may buy into that community. And if you've got a very, just a tight, amazing, influential community, people want to be a part of that. And even if you're in a local market, like there are local brands that you can start to pitch your partnerships or your events or collaboration with, like right in your city. It doesn't always have to be like, let me go out to Nike's corporate office.
Yeah. You mentioned a word in the very beginning of our chat, solution.
Yes.
And I think about that word often, because when you can come up with something that's truly a solution in some way, a solution doesn't mean you're curing something. It doesn't have to be life shattering, but it's a solution in some way. And it's unique. And I think about that all the time with Harlem's Fashion Row. Like there was nothing like it. When you created that, I remember how exclusive it felt, how I thought, how can I get a ticket? How can I be a part of this? Like, that's all. I just felt like something I had never seen before. So how do you go about creating a solution in some way?
Yeah, so you have to position whatever it is you're pitching to the brand as a solution for them. Like it has to be a win-win. It cannot be all about you, right? Yeah. You have to go, I'm bringing in a new audience to you. I'm going to bring more press to your brand. Like we can tell a new story through this platform that I have. You always have to be positioning your brand in a way that it is a solution for that brand. No one's going to partner with you just because like you need help. I can tell you this. Now we have a nonprofit. And even with our nonprofit, we have to provide value and solutions to brands to get big checks.
Yes.
So whether you're a nonprofit or for profit, you need to be thinking about how does what I'm proposing going to be a solution for the brand that I'm working with?
Yes. And oftentimes, I am a podcast coach. So one of my coaching clients, he and his podcast, Living Corporate, he is amazing at getting really big partnerships for his podcast. And one of the things he talks about in our mastermind sessions is the fact that, at the end of the day, some of these brands, they can buy this, right? If you say, I have this many downloads or whatever, they can go out and they can pay to get these impressions. However, there's something about the conversations you're having and the way you're having it. So for example, there's nothing like Harlem's Fashion Row. They're not going to find a room like the room you've curated just anywhere. They're just going to walk down 125th, go into a restaurant and find that room.
No, they won't.
No one can curate it like you have. So you have to play up and help them understand what you've created.
Absolutely.
I'm talking to myself too. I'm talking to myself.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
They can't do it, and even with everything that's happening right now in the world with DEI being pulled back and all of those things, a lot of times people will go like, how are you guys doing? And because once a brand comes in, we literally treat them like family. Like all of the people who work with me, they have a budget to send. They don't have to say, Brandice, can I get this approved to send this person flowers? It's their birthday. I'm like, don't ask me. If it's under $200, do not ask me. Ooh. Like, just do it because we're building real relationships.
Yeah.
I encourage my team, go out to dinner with our brand partners. If I can't do it, like go.
Right.
Because when something like this happens, like we have relationships. None of our brand partners from last year have not resigned.
That's very telling. Yeah.
It's us bringing a solution.
Yep.
We're providing a solution to the brand, and it's also a relationship.
And how far in advance do you start working on the next year?
So I am working on 2026 now. I'm actually pitching something for 2026 now. We're meeting as a team in June to lay out our full 2026 plan. And then we'll start pitching to brands around August. That's when we'll do our first 2026 meetings in August. And then October, we're having more and more conversations. By the time November, December rolls around, finally the brand is at a point where they're like, okay, we have everything we need. We just need to present this internally and we'll come back to you. Okay. So some of them come back in December. Like we have some brands who are still right now, we're waiting to come back to us in January. And of course, there's still going to be some things that happen in year, but we try to get like 18 months ahead.
Now, something that I'm trying to balance, Brandice, is how much of my revenue is in each bucket. So for something like sponsorships that sometimes has a longer payout window or even a longer contract finalizing window, how do you balance that with paying your team? You know, what other revenue streams have you created to kind of buffer against delays or brands doing some funny business?
So we're working on that right now, to be honest with you. Yeah. That's part of our diversification right now. Most of our business is B2B. Mm-hmm. So we're working on a model right now. Our local model that we're working on is how do we create a profitable model with whether a brand comes on or not. If they come on, great, it's more profitable. But even if they don't come on, when we do this event in local markets, it's so amazing. And we're creating such a premium experience that people will pay for it. Yes. And so we're working on that now.
This is the year of pulling back the curtain. That's my theme. I just came up with it, okay? That's my theme for 2025, yes. Pulling back the curtain. Yes. And we're building as we go sometimes. And it's not even like you didn't plan this out. Like the world has changed. The world is shifting. Every year since 2020, it has been something in terms of business shifting. So we have to change. And that means we're going to be building as we go and designing as we go.
Absolutely. I will say something that helps me a lot is looking at the entire year and saying with the team that I want, what's the operational budget that I need for the year? And then based on that, what do we need to, we go backwards. It's usually what is our goal and what is the operational budget to support this goal, right? Yes. So looking at it for the year and making the goals, I used to not even back in the day in my early years, I didn't create financial goals for myself for the quarter. Yeah. They used to be arbitrary. If we make this, that'd be great.
Right. It'll be like dollar figures floating in your mind.
Floating in my mind, girl. Floating in my mind. Now, no. It's very clear.
Stop it. Everybody has it. Yes, I feel you. I'm going through that transformation myself. And it's no, let's firm up what this looks like. So how big is your team right now?
So we have a team of, I think we're at about 8 now.
8, okay. Mm-hmm. And how did you go about building that? When did you know that, hey, I need full-time commitment and full-time employees, salary, all that?
Most of my team is contract based. Okay. And there's just a few of us that are full-time. And it was really what do we need to support the business? And how can we operate leanly? Yeah, because there was one point where I had 15 team members. That was too much. Right? It was killing me. Payroll was literally killing me. Mm-hmm. But now it's we can do this with 8 people. We can rock and roll. So we know we need someone to cover our collaborations and make sure everything is good. We know we need someone to handle our events. We know we need 2 people to start working on the top end of partnerships, bringing in partnerships. We know we need a CFO and we know we need an accountant. Those are non-negotiables. Yeah. We know we need someone to run our HBCUP. So it's really based on kind of what our programming is and what are the needs and finding someone who can not only do that job, but maybe fill in some other places too.
When we first spoke in 2018, you talked about how you knew I have 6 fixed hours, my daughter comes home at this time. Are you still really good with managing your time like that, with fitting in as much as you can before the evening routine of mom and wife kicks in?
I think probably the biggest blessing for people who work with us is that I'm really, truly, most times, I say 90% of the time, I'm off the clock at 4 or 5 o'clock.
Nice.
So I am still very much a stickler for that. Our sitter comes in on Tuesdays and Mondays and Thursdays. Okay. On those days, I might work a little bit later, but we're able to get in what we need to get in by 4 or 5 o'clock.
Yes.
I stick to that, and I do not work on weekends. Do not email me on a weekend. Don't email me on a weekend. Don't text me on a weekend. I'm not working on a weekend unless I'm right before Fashion Week.
this is the year we pull back the curtains and I show you
Yes.
guys how I grow in building my business by becoming even better at these revenue streams. So I've been
Absolutely.
out of the sponsorship game a bit, but I'm coming back in. And who better to learn from than the queen herself, Miss Brandice
And
Daniel.
Nikayla, I am
And
going to gift you with my course. So
ooh,
you get,
thank
I will
you.
gift you with my course on
Oh
this
my
podcast.
God. Thank you. Oh
You're
my
welcome.
gosh. You know me, I'm big on just in time learning. I'm going to dive in, scour this. This is my Q1 goal to get my list together, my outreach together, and really start to build those relationships for those few but mighty sponsorships. And you guys, when you hear these collaborations and when you see these collaborations, know that this is truly who I felt aligned the most with Side Hustle Pro and support what we're building over here. So I thank you so much, Brandice, for being a part of that. And also thank you, before Brandice got on the show today, we had a conversation just about how much we need to utilize our village and ask for what you need, right? Here I know this woman who is amazing, expert at sponsorships, and I am over here figuring this out on my own. Like, no, she's like, call me, talk to me, have my
Yes.
course. You know what I mean? Like, so tap in and think about who do you know, and if you don't know, you can reach out to me and let's get some of this clarified for you guys.
I love that.
So, Brandice, is there anything we didn't talk about today that you wanted to make sure you left the audience with?
Only thing I'd say is like, guys, do not feel like you have to do this alone.
No.
Like, do entrepreneurship in community, and it makes a big difference. I had my first $1 million year a few years ago, and it was because I had spoken to another entrepreneur who was making several millions in her business. And I was intentional about building community with her. And it allowed me to see, oh, it's possible for me to have a multi-million-dollar business. And so we cannot try to do this by ourselves. We really have to tap into the amazing women that are around us. Even if you have to pay, like Nikayla has her 90-minute clarity calls, like, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody and say, hey, can I book a 1-hour coaching session with you?
Yeah.
Like, what's the investment for that? Even if they don't offer coaching, they might say, they might say,
because
okay,
for a long time, people would ask me and I didn't have it, but I'll create it for you.
There you go.
Yeah.
So don't try to do it by yourself. You don't have to do it by yourself.
No, not at all. And another thing I'll say before we do the lightning round for my moms will relate to this. I was talking to Brandice and I'm like, I'm at that cusp in business where I'm like, my daughter's in daycare 3 days a week. Do I put her in 5 days a week? Do I do that investment so I can get my full work week back? Or do I keep, saying, ooh, I don't feel like paying for that. And she's like, you gotta pay.
You gotta put those kids in daycare, okay?
You gotta pay for daycare.
They got to go.
You gotta pay the cost to be the boss, y'all. Woo, it ain't easy. But thank you. Thank you for being that ear. I needed that. I needed that ear. So now we're gonna do a quick lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Number 1, what is a resource that has really helped you in your business that you can share with the Side Hustle Pro audience?
Mentorship.
Number 2, who is a non-celebrity Black woman entrepreneur who you are admiring right now, would switch places with for a day, and why? Non-celebrity.
Tiffany the Budgetnista is, that's my girl.
Yes.
I would say also Terry, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name right, but
Ijoma.
I just so admire what she's built as well.
Yes. Number 3, what's a non-negotiable part of your day these days?
Ooh, I drink tea every day. So that has become my thing. Yes.
We both had to make sure we got our tea for this chat. Number 4, what is a personal trait that has helped you significantly in business?
Cliff jumping.
Ooh, what's that?
Taking a step of faith, even when I don't know how things are going to turn out.
Love it. I thought you were going to say the gift of gab or something.
No, definitely cliff jumping.
Cliff jumping. And then finally, what is your parting advice in 2025 for fellow women side hustlers who want to be their own boss, but are worried about losing a steady paycheck?
Set your sights high, make a goal, create a plan, and surround yourself with women who are maybe 5 steps ahead of you in their business that can provide you with some critical feedback.
Love it. So guys, there you have it. Brandice Daniel, just amazing, amazing, amazing. Where can people connect with you and Harlem's Fashion Row after this episode?
They can connect with me on Instagram at Brandice Daniel, Harlem's Fashion Row at Harlem's Fashion Row. They can go and get the book at smallbusinessbigpartnershipbook.com.
All right. And thank you so, so much for being in the guest chair. I will talk to you guys next week. Hey guys, thanks for listening to Side Hustle Pro. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other side hustlers just like you to find the show. And if you want to hear more from me, you can follow me on Instagram at Side Hustle Pro. Plus, sign up for my 6-bullet Saturday newsletter at sidehustlepro.co/newsletter. When you sign up, you will receive weekly nuggets from me, including what I'm up to, personal lessons, and my business tip of the week. Again, that's sidehustlepro.co/newsletter to sign up. Talk to you soon.